Buliba. I am a designer, multimedia designer. Yeah, so I'm so excited to be sharing with us today. I think this is it's also a space where myself I'm learning. So yeah, so hope everyone is doing okay. I hope all of you have been hydrating properly. Yeah, so we can start. So I just need us to start. I'll present. I hope you can see my screen. So you can just raise your hand right here if you can see my screen. All right. I think we'll begin. So I'd just like us to begin with a little, like a small game. I know you're familiar with. So I have some question. The game is called Put a Finger Down. I think you've seen this somewhere on the internet. So I'll just ask a few questions. You don't have to show us, but where you are, you can just participate. So the first question is, I want us to raise our 10 fingers for those of us who have 10 fingers. So the first question is, put a finger down if you want to be among the greatest designers or greatest creatives or greatest anyone in the field you are. The second question is, put a finger down if you are afraid AI might take your job sooner than later. The third one is, put your finger down if sometimes you are afraid to showcase your work, so you are afraid to post it. Put a finger down. The fourth question is, put a finger down if you have very tough time asking for help. So it might be with a design project when you're stuck. If you have a tough time asking for help, put a finger down. The fifth one, put a finger down if you set very high expectations for yourself. We're on the next hand. Put your finger down if you feel you don't have enough experience or you feel your experience is not worth sharing. Seventh one, put a finger down if you struggle to ask for more money, be it in a project, be it for a salary raise. If you struggle to negotiate the money or negotiate so put a finger down. The eighth question is, put a finger down if you hide your failures so people can't see them. Yeah, some of us are here. Then number 9, put a finger down if you find it hard to accept compliments. When people say, no, you're the best, you shy away from that. Put a finger down. Then the last question is, put a finger down if sometimes you experience self-doubt and sometimes you feel like you are faking it. And you have a feeling that someone somewhere might notice that you're fake. So for those of us who have more than 5 fingers standing, I think your creative confidence is through the roof. But for those of us who have, like for me, most of these questions spoke directly to me. So what I want to talk about today is the feeling that you feel sometimes you're fake, sometimes you feel you're not good enough, and this feeling is called imposter syndrome. So I tried to scour the web and see how do they define imposter syndrome, and Wikipedia defines it as a psychological pattern in which an individual doubts their accomplishment and has persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. And this is so true to most of us who create each and every day, who try to do stuff, the people who are in UI design, the people who are in UX, the photographers, the product designer, the logo designers. So imposter syndrome is a very rampant phenomenon in the creative and design industry at large. And I'm sure some of you or all of us have experienced imposter syndrome in some way, shape, or form. And we have to understand that we are not alone, or you are not alone. There are countless famous people, famous leaders, famous artists, very big designers who also deal with the imposter syndrome. And it's allowed. So every time you make a transition to a new role, you are an imposter. Every time you're a beginner, you don't know what you're doing, you might feel you're an imposter, but that doesn't mean you're a liar or you're a fake. It doesn't mean that you should not try and learn more about the role or about the position. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't move to the next stage or you should stop. Yeah. So I try to ask myself what causes imposter syndrome, and there are two main things I found out that cause imposter syndrome. The first one is change. Change causes imposter syndrome because you are expected to be or to do something different that you're fairly new to. For example, you might change a job or you might get promoted. That means you are now pulled out of your comfort zone, and now you have to, start learning the new things. And sometimes you may feel inadequate of taking up the new position. The second one is personality, and we have different personality types. And sometimes you might feel, because of your personality, you might feel you're not good enough to pursue certain things. Yeah. So I discovered that all of us feel or experience imposter syndrome in different ways, and that might be affected with the type of personality we have. So we have 5 types that I found out. They are perfectionists. Perfectionists, these are people who are never satisfied. If you are working on a project, you're never satisfied. You fixate on your flaws, you fixate on the mistakes, and in turn, you put a lot of pressure on yourself. For example, you're working on a UI, you just feel there's something wrong about it. Sometimes you don't find the mistake, but you just feel there's something wrong about it. So those are the perfectionists. Then there's the superhero. The superheroes, they often feel inadequate. So they try to work as hard as possible. They work for long hours, just trying to do as much as they can so that they can feel adequate to themselves. The other one is the expert. The expert, if you are always trying to learn more, but you're not satisfied with with the level of understanding, like you do tutorials, you read books, but you're not satisfied with the level of understanding, and most of the times you find yourself underrating your own expertise, then you fall into this particular group. Then there's the genius. These are the Kanye Wests and such people of this world. And so for the genius type of imposter syndrome, these are people who are naturally gifted, like they have the feeling that they were born with this for a particular gift, like they were born to be designers, but they don't feel validated enough. So they end up questioning if it's actually true that they are naturally gifted. And then I think the last part is the soloist. These are people who they are afraid and they dread asking questions. They want to do things by themselves. They want to solve problems by themselves, because when they feel if they ask, they'll be seen as fake, or they'll be seen as they're not where they're supposed to be, right? And if you look at this, some of us fall into different, or all of us fall into different groups of the 5 types of imposter syndrome. And it's always a vicious cycle. And know for the designers in the house, there's a cycle, and it almost happens on all projects. So the first cycle is you get a project, you're excited about it, but then you doubt yourself, will I be able to execute this? And then it jumps to the second step, which is now you get anxiety, and now you start procrastinating. No, I'll do this tomorrow. I'll do this in the next hour, and you spend a lot of time looking for inspiration, but you're not actually doing the work. And then when you start doing the work, at least you make some progress. But after finishing the work, and maybe the client loves it, you think it was luck. So you say, oh, I was lucky there. That was a close one. And then the fifth step is now the self-doubt increase. You say, hey, last time I was lucky. Will I be lucky the next time? So that is the vicious cycle of imposter syndrome. So every time you get a project, you go through the same. You get the project, you get anxious, you procrastinate, but then somehow, some way you manage to churn out the project. Maybe it was last minute, and then you think yourself you're lucky, and the cycle continues. But there's a way we can break the cycle, and the way we can break the cycle is shifting shifting our mindset. And shifting our mindset, like we all know and we all understand that everything happens in the mind before it happens anyway. So all our success and all our failures first happens in our minds before it's actually realized in the real world. So how do we shift our mindset? So I found ways we can talk ourselves out of imposter syndrome, and some mantras that we can believe in to help us beat this dreadful feeling. Number one, every time you think you don't belong where you are, you have to reframe that. Say, you belong everywhere, always. Number two, every time you think your opinion doesn't matter, just remember that the world needs your unique voice. The world needs the unique style you have. The world needs to hear what you have to say. Every time you're in a room and you feel that your experience isn't worth sharing, you have the big wigs, you have the super designers, you have your project leads, and you feel your experience isn't worth sharing, you should remind yourself that your voice and your ideas and your opinions might be exactly what that particular project needs, might be exactly what someone needs. Um, and um, and every time you think that what you're about to do, maybe it's a new app idea, or it's a new, style, or a new way of doing something, and you think, oh, this has already been done, I can't do it. You have to remember that the world needs your unique touch. Even if it has been done, you can do it much better, you can improve. And we have seen this through the existence of technology. Every year there's something new, just an improvement of what was previous before, right? And then the last one is, every time you think that you're not good enough, you have to know you're always enough. So I read this interesting quote by someone named Ruth Sukuk, and it says, you don't have to be an expert. No one is expecting you to be an expert. All you need to do is show up and be you, right? So I really found this very interesting, because every day, and I speak with the perspective of a designer. You get into rooms where people are throwing jargons around, they're throwing abbreviations they've never had before around, and you're afraid, what if these people find out that I'm not familiar with the words they're throwing around? But the thing is, we learn every day. So all you have to do is show up and be yourself, and try to, learn as much as possible. So we've looked at ways we can shift our mindset, right? But also, we can also look at how we can beat the imposter syndrome. There are a few ways I found out in my research, and these are the 5 easier ones to do from wherever you are. And the first one is getting out of your comfort zone. We all know things that we are capable of doing. But until we push the envelope and try new things, we will never know how good we are. So it's important for us to get out of our comfort zone. It's important for us to try new things, make new things. Yeah. The second one is making a list. This one, I think, this one is maybe different people might take it up differently. But I think making a list or writing things down is a very efficient way to help ourselves understand what we are capable of, what we are not capable of, where we can improve. How making a list works to help you beat imposter syndrome is when you make a list, you make a list of other successful people in your field. They are very good people you look up to, be it your mentors, be it industry leaders. So make a list of other successful people in your field. If you have doubt based on your age, gender, or your history, find other successful people in your line of work that you relate to, right? So maybe, you feel you're not good enough because you didn't go to a certain school, you know, can you find out if from the school you went to, is there someone great, someone doing magical things out here who came out from the same school? And 100% of the time you'll find, yes, there are people who came out from this place and are doing good things. So I'm worthy to do the same. The next one is the most important lesson for all of us is we have to keep learning, right? And the best method to overcome imposter syndrome is to keep learning. If you work on improving your expertise or your craft, you will feel more, you'll always feel more worthy of your status. So your knowledge bank, what you had today, yesterday in your knowledge bank, if you add something more, it gets you closer to feeling very confident about yourself and very confident about your abilities. Number 4 is very important. You visualize success. And this stems from sometimes we do amazing things and we say, oh, we are just lucky at that point. Or if it wasn't for some so and so, we wouldn't have done it the way we did it. But we should understand that even the people who find success through, maybe they did something major, maybe they created the best app or made the best film, they do not earn that status unless they kept working hard, unless they kept learning, unless they kept improving their craft, as point number 3 had showed us. And the last one, which affects so many people, is perfectionism. So we have to say no to perfectionism. I know perfectionism, like our employees or our clients or the people we work with, expect the highest standard of output. But we have to understand also, on the other hand, that perfectionism shouldn't prevent us from getting things done right. So we have to do what we have to do with the best way we know how, and just try to get things done as much as possible. Yeah. So also another interesting quote I read, and this says that there are people less qualified than you, doing the things you want to do simply because they decided to believe in themselves. Period. And this, I found this so interesting, because sometimes you usually see maybe a major project out there and you say, I know I could have done better. But why are you not in that position? Because you felt you're not good enough. So the thing is, we have to get ourselves out there, get ourselves to do more. And in the spirit of getting ourselves to do more, um, we might end up, doing what we see people do, and maybe we have the skills and the capabilities to do it better. All we have to do is show up and do it, right? We don't have to wait until we are confident to show up. We have to show up until we are confident. So I think I'll just do my parting shot. This was so interesting. I read this somewhere. If you feel like you're an imposter, that's actually a good thing, because it means you're trying new things. It means you're taking risks. It means you're learning. It means you're growing. So wherever you do, wherever your field is, be it you're a designer, a logo designer, a graphic designer, a UI designer, a UX researcher, a content manager, every time you feel like you're an imposter, it means you're doing great. So take this opportunity, go and make that stuff. Go and create the apps you wish existed. Go and make the films that you wish existed. Go and take the photograph, the pictures that you wish existed. You keep learning, you keep growing. Yeah, I think that's what I had for today. I think now I'm open to any question or any addition. The floor is open for us to share.
Hello, hi George.
Hello.
I have a personal question. So,
Mm-hmm.
how do you recover from a creative block? Like, let's say, for example, you've been given work to design something. Let me give an example of like designing a logo, let's say, and you just can't think of anything. Your mind is blank, but you've gone through as much as illustrations as you've done. So, how would you solve such a problem if you're the one who's facing it?
Yeah, I think this, thank you for the question. For me, I know for all of us who create on a daily, I think this is something that we might have experienced from time to time. I think for me, I'll answer this with how I do it. For me, when I experience a creative block, number one, what I do, I take a break. And sometimes I understand there might be deadlines and such, but first I take a break, sorry. Just step back a little. Um, I might go for a walk. I might go listen to some music just to take my mind out of, that cell. I'd call that jail of creative block. Then after that, now I'll try to find a new source of inspiration. I think, and most of the times for me that has worked when I just take a break and look at something different from the task at hand. When I come back and look for a new source of inspiration, I usually get things going from there. Yeah, I hope I have answered your question.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'm answered. We have a sure, proceed. Sorry.
Yeah, I've seen the question from the chat from Paminas Amurungi. He says, "Thank you for the lesson. A quick question: when you get a project that you feel is above your skill, should you proceed with it?" For me, I'd say yes, and this goes back to the point of stepping out of our comfort zones. Um, when and I think we should all understand that in the field of design, it's always evolving. That means we have to learn new stuff. We have to know more than we did yesterday for us to survive. So if you get a project that is above your skill, I think it's the best decision for me will be to take the project. If there's something you can learn that might help you execute the project, go learn it. At the end of the day, when you succeed, that will be great. When you don't succeed, you'll have a lesson, you'll have a new skill set added to your portfolio, and that will be good. Yeah. So yes, take the project, get out of your comfort zone, learn, and create as much as you can. Yeah. Anyone else with a question? Paminas, I hope I've answered you. Yeah. Thank you. Just saw another question from Mr. Duranira. The presentation of doc, a quick one. How would you handle a situation where you meet clients who introduce errors to design after sharing final files? I think that's a good question. I think I'd like to understand, Mr. Gasiata, what do you mean when you say you meet clients who introduce errors to designs? I think it's not very clear. Are you trying to
Mm,
mean like, hello?
okay, I don't know if I'm getting the question correct, but I think Galata is asking in the sense of, let's say, for example, you design an application and the application is working very well. But then once you share to the client is more of like, I think I can edit something from here and here. Then once the client edits, an error comes and it's like, whatever you shared is not working. Yeah, so I think that's what he's asking. Right,
Oh
Galata?
yeah, yeah. Um, I think because we have maybe some of us or all of us have had instances in the past where you reach the final stage of the design process, and you share the files, and then the client goes on and messes up the files here. So I get the question now. Um, for me, how I would handle it, I think the first thing is sit down with the client or try to get a meeting with the client, um, and try to see where the client is coming from, and also explain where I'm coming from and why I think what I the final files I gave out, why I think they were the best, why I think they work, and why what the client, the error they have introduced, why they won't work. So yeah, I think with the I was lucky to have to work in an advertising agency when I started out, and the creative directors there, they were so big on designers defending their work each and every time. So when you stand out, when you develop something, do you have any documentation or any presentation that can defend your work or can support your thinking process? So I think if you have that, it's easier to handle the clients who introduce errors, right? So for me, I think what I'll do is talk to the client, tell them this is what I shared, this is why, this is why I think it will work, and this is what you have shared, this is why I think it won't work. So yeah, hope I've answered your question, Mr. Duranira. I've seen a question from Ivan Himawan. He's from Indonesia. Thank you for joining, Ivan. He's asking, have you ever felt like your UI UX design skill weren't good enough despite positive feedback from clients or colleagues? Yes, Ivan. So this is something that happens quite often with designers, with creatives, and people from maybe even different fields, professional fields. And when we're talking about the 5 different types of imposter syndrome, I think this is one of them. You work on you work on a project, and you get very good compliment, but you still feel you're not good enough, right? I think there's a place I've mentioned how to beat that, because it's something that you always feel, even when people are complimenting you positively, you feel you're not still there. It's a legit feeling, and the way to beat the feeling is you just keep learning, you just keep growing to the level you feel you're comfortable enough. Yeah. Hope I've answered your question, Mr. Ivan. Thank you. There's a question from Lynette Mbula. As a self-taught UI UX designer, what will be the best way to improve your skills, especially on the UX part? For me, what I'd recommend, number one, of course, keep learning, but you'll ask, where do you learn? For me, what I think works best is being part of a community. And if you're part of a community like we have here, Friends of Figma, this is a community where you can learn, you can share, you can get critiqued, you can critique people's work, you can hear different thoughts, different opinions. It's easier to learn from peers, people you can talk to freely, than any other place. So I think being in a community like this is one of the best places to improve your skills, learn, connect, and share. So yeah, so I'd recommend being part of a community, being part of a design community, being part of a UX design community, and there are several communities around. There are several forums like this where experts and people more experienced share, and you can learn and also be in a position to also share yourself and grow your skills in that arena. Hope I've answered your question, Lynette. Um, there's Sandra Meto. Sandra asks, how do you ensure you learn remote UI UX job? Um, right now, I know most of us are very interested in getting the UI UX jobs. And for sure they're there, and sometimes it might be tricky to find them. For me, from what I know, there's a designer friend of mine called George Usiri. You might look him up. He's a great lad, and he has this PDF list that shows companies that are hiring for remote roles. I think that might be helpful. So I might just share the link, hopefully here. It might help anyone who's looking forward to that. But also one of the things I can advise to help you ensure you land remote UI UX job is having, even if you get the links and you apply, but you don't have um, an attractive portfolio, you might end up um, not getting the job. So work on your craft, try work on projects, and it doesn't have to be real clients. When you don't have access to real clients, you can have mock clients, create an app, redesign the Uber app or redesign the wherever the Safaricom M-Pesa app. So such things, have them in a portfolio. It's easier to get you jobs out there. So that's how I feel, Sandra. Dominic Mutua asks, do you have a Slack or WhatsApp platform for friends of Figma? Think Mandela, uh, you'll be in a better position to help me answer that.
Yeah, sure. We have our WhatsApp group, our Twitter channel, and we also have our Discord link. I think I'll share the WhatsApp group for easy access, if that's
All
okay
right.
with you, Dom.
All right.
Okay.
So Dominic, there you go. A link will be shared by Mandela. There's a Discord group, there's a WhatsApp group. So yes. There's a question from Preston Odep. Preston asks, how do you navigate challenges when working in a collaborative environment and everyone feels the need to have an input, even if they might not be relevant? I think I'll share my personal experience. Working in a collaborative group, I think there are several ways on how people share ideas. And in such forums, we usually we are usually taught or made to understand that no input or no idea is wrong. Sometimes they might not be relevant, but none is wrong. So I think for me, how you navigate such is be welcoming to everyone's opinion, because one, remember, every time you shut down an opinion or an input, as you say, that might not be relevant, it affects the one you're shutting down ideally. So one, it affects their self-esteem. Next time you have such a discussion or somewhere you need everyone to collaborate, they might not be as willing to to participate because they feel they'll not be relevant. So I think we should create a space where anyone can share, and then after everyone has shared, you table everyone's opinion and then weigh them and try and get to a level playing field where they understand this is why this wouldn't work and this is why this works. Hope I've answered you, Preston. So that's what I think. There's another question from Hanami Patrick. Thanks for the insight. I would like to know how you handle an incoming project while you are still on another project, especially when the new project is of high budget. How do you manage the two projects when there's pressure from both sides? Yeah, this is a good question, and it's actually a tricky one. And I think for me, this boils down to your abilities and who you are as a person. I was used to be told that I have a background in advertising. I worked at an advertising agency, and we were used to be advised that no, there's always a high budget project, of course, and there's a low budget project, of course. But when you are still in the phase of growing, or you are still trying to hone your skills, every project, the output should be ideally be the best standards, the perfect standard as much as you can achieve. You give consultation to both of them, but you ask how you can handle an incoming project. So you have this not so high paying project and you have a high budget project coming in. For me, I'd say what I'll do, I'd complete what I have, and this goes back to planning, having communicating comfortable timelines with the client, communicating comfortable working hours with the client. So the high budget clients, we just let them know I'll start working on this project at this time, and at the same time try and complete the other one if you had already committed, right? Because it will feel wrong for you to leave a project hanging because you have committed to a new project, right? Yeah, so that's what I think. Hope I have answered your question. Yeah. So any more questions? All right. Anyone else? You can just write your question on the chat. I have like 8 minutes to go, I think. Yeah. So I think there's no more questions. I'd just like to appreciate everyone who joined the session today. It has been a great session for me, and I appreciate all of you for joining here. Mandela, back to you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Judge. I think this is the most interesting session I've had during this week, apart from attending product meetings. Yeah, I think you forgot to share how they can contact you.
Oh, all right. So I think I'll just I can share my email, but every other platform we can chat on LinkedIn. I'm George Buliba on LinkedIn, but I can also just share my email on the chat for anyone who wants to reach out. We can talk from there. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So thank you, George, once again for leading us through this session. Hope it did help. So the next week, I'll, I'll create one for you. I'll specifically put aside one for you. With that being said, thank you everyone. Thank you everyone for all who made time and yeah, got the chance to listen to the presentation. We usually have these sessions every Friday from 7 to 8 p.m. They are not that long sessions. It's basically just small sessions to a bit nudge at the back for you to learn more about design. So on next week, we'll be having a session on how to design for, let me just get the term correct, how to design for voice first interfaces. So technically you can start thinking of how do you design something like a Google Assistant. So we'll be having that talk next week. Other than that, I think that's all for me from me. For the recording, I'll upload the recording on YouTube, and then you can always find them on the event page. Let me just share my screen to show that, so that it will be much easier for share screen one. So if you go to, let's say, friendsofigma.com, then you'll just come to FIF Nairobi. So let me take you through an example of an event that we did. Yeah, so if you come to FIF Nairobi, you get to see like the past events. So I'm looking for an event where we did a wrap up. So let me see. Let me see. Yeah, so for example, like this session that we had, unlocking the secrets of user behavior, if you come back to the event page, you'll always find like a link to the recording, or you can just watch the video. It's the same as the session. So in case you won't be able to see the announcement on Twitter, you can just always come back to our platform over here, and then you'll always find the link to the YouTube video attached. Other than that, I think I'll just leave it up. I'll leave it up as a challenge for you guys. If you've taken anything important from here, you can go back to Twitter or LinkedIn and just tell us what is the most important thing that you have learned, and then you can tag us. I have shared my I've shared our Twitter account FOF_Nairobi, but you can also tag George's Twitter. Yeah, I think he'll share that. Other than that, adios muchachos. Have a great um have a great Friday evening, and let the weekend begin. Thank you.